Hi, today I'm suggesting you to follow this short tutorial on Git and GitHub, two complementary tools that are very useful for all the projects involving IT programming. To introduce myself quickly, I'm Mélanie. I'm a PhD student at Trinity College Dublin at the School of Medicine and the Institute of Neuroscience. My supervisor is Claire Kelly and my other colleague in the lab is Jivesh. What are the projects in neuroscience where Git and GitHub are useful? Actually, almost all of them. Indeed, in order to validate an hypothesis, you mostly need to run a statistical analysis after your experiments. You need to use a software or a programming language like R and Python to help you to implement the statistics and algorithms. You may also want to develop a model or a software linked with your research. In all of these cases, the development of such programs takes time and is realized step by step. By step by step, I mean that you may start by implementing several statistical tests. Next, you decide to delete or change the analysis, so your code, removing and transforming several parts of the code. You may want to keep the removed pieces of code, so you create an old version of the file where these pieces of code are kept. But what are the problems here? If each time you want to change a file containing your code and you want to keep track of your old version by copying this old version into another file, you will end up with tons of files in your folder, which may be very confusing for an external collaborator or even for yourself. Thus, such practice is very resource-consuming and not sustainable. Git is a version control system that allows you to track all of your old versions of your files by saving the modifications in a logical and chronological way. It does not replicate the files, saving memory resources, and you can find any version of your file that you tracked. Based on Git, GitHub improves three main points: sharing your Git projects with other people, coding from different machines, from the office, from home, etc. And it also fosters collaboration and teamwork, so you can build tools with people from all around the world. So to follow this tutorial, we recommend that you have some pre-installations. So you need to install Git, so see the official documentation there. You need to have Python with an environment with the libraries IPython, Jupyter, Pandas, NumPy, scikit-learn, and Matplotlib. And you need to download code and data here in my profile. So today we will use the Ionic PyOP2 datasets. Okay, so now I have the folder downloaded from GitHub, so containing all the files I need to reproduce the analysis and the GitHub repository I made. So first of all, I will just copy and paste these two first files, derivatives and visualization, because it consists of the first step of the analysis, because the visualization is a step before the clustering analysis here. So I will first just copy these two files into a folder called My Analysis 2. Okay. So the derivatives file corresponds to the data from the Ionic PyOP2 dataset, and visualization.ipynb is a Python notebook. Copy and paste simply. So if I go to a terminal and if I go to the folder My Analysis 2, I see that, so I have my two files here, and I will say I want to start tracking these two files because it's a stable version of the project and the first stable version of the project. So I will just initialize a Git repository here with the command git init. and then it says that it has been initialized in this folder. So the .git here is very important because it will contain all the history of all your tracked files, and if you remove it accidentally, you will still have your current files in their current state, but you will lose all the modifications and the old versions, so it could be a disaster. Okay. So first of all, before saving changes, we should configure Git to know who is committing stuff, and it's very important, especially when you are working collaboratively. So let's configure with the command git config --global, and first the username. So I'm Mélanie Garcia. Okay, and then I will configure the email address. So this is also important because when you don't configure your email address, sometimes if you link this Git project with GitHub, for instance, and your GitHub is associated with a specific email address, if it's not the same than here, well, your commits won't be accounted into the GitHub platform. It will be saved, but you won't have the specific points, green points. So it's not a disaster, but you may lose some credits for your work. Okay. So let's go and let's start tracking our files. So a very basic command in Git is git status to check the state of the projects. So we see that for Git you don't have any commits, or you haven't saved any change yet, but it has detected untracked files that could be tracked. So this is what we will do. So you see, use git add file to include in what will be committed. So it means here that we will use this git add first to add these files in a specific stage. So it's called staging these files. So it's an intermediary step to avoid committing changes that doesn't make sense to be committed at the same time than other change. So for instance, if you change the visualization notebook and you change the clustering notebook, it doesn't make sense to commit it at the same time in the same commit, because it's two different parts of your analysis. Of course, if they are dependent and if you have added visualization regarding to the clustering analysis inside the visualization notebook, it will make sense to commit it at the same time. But here, if you manage to cut your project and to do commit that makes sense in terms of versions of the project and what features have been developed, it's nicer and clearer for everyone, and even for yourself. Because when you have many commits, to go back to an older commit, it will really facilitate your life. Okay, let's add the two files. So git add derivatives, blah blah blah. So the backslash are just to take into account the spaces in the file name, and visualization, so you can add many names of files at the same time. So here we see that the status has changed, and now you have staged your two files, and so we can perform a first commit with a specific message. which is mandatory, just to specify why this commit has been made for. So here we will say data and visualization. Okay, cool. So if we want to visualize this first commit, we can type git log and see that it has a unique identifier here. It's on a branch called master. The author is Mélanie Garcia. Email address is here, the date, the time, and the message. And if I want to quit, I just type double.q. Now I will perform the second commit with the file clustering analysis, the notebook clustering analysis, just to include it in the project, but separately. Okay. So now it is copied in the folder. Git automatically detects it. So here, same, git add clustering analysis, git commit. For instance. Okay, so if I check the history again, I will see that I have my second commit here. So you see that it's you have the last commit at the first place here. Let's see now if I want to modify. If I want to modify one of my files, so let's say visualization, I will just put, well, something here. Okay, so I added 3 cells and a comment. And so if I want, I know that these changes will be detected automatically here. But if these changes are not satisfying for me, and I don't know what to do, and I don't want to try to remove my code or remove the lines I added to the file, there is a very simple way just to go back to the most recent saved file of your Git repository. It is by using just the restore command, git restore visualization. So now if I put a git status, I will just have this checkpoints, automatic hidden checkpoints from the Python notebooks, but you don't have the visualization notebook modified anymore. So if I go to the notebook and I update the page, I see that all the lines I added before are gone. So this is very, very practical and it makes it messy. Okay. So another trick could be to go to an old version of the project. So here I remind you that we have 2 commits, and we are currently into this commit state. So if we want to go back to the older commit, we can just check with git log but -- 1 line the identifier of the first commit we want to go to. So this is 99C60C7. So we just copy and paste it copy it. So with Control Shift C, double.Q to quit, and we will use the command git checkout to go to this commit. Let's see what happened. So it's just telling you that you are switching to this specific commit. And now if I just want to look what files are in my folder, there is only the data and visualization.ipymd. So it means that it has well returned to this previous state. So even if I go to here, you see that the clustering analysis has disappeared, and you only have the two files corresponding to this commit. So be very careful to go back to the last version of the project, to the most recent version of the project, unless it could a lot disturb the project if you start modifying files. Here it's very bad practice. If you want to try new things from this estate, I suggest you to create a branch. So we will see how to create a branch, but from this commit you can create a new branch and start developing on it without interfering with the main branch that contains a clean code and stable versions of the project. So to go back to the most recent version of the project, you can use git checkout again, but going to master. So branches is a very good concept in Git, because it enables you to develop features without disturbing your clean code, and also to hierarchize the development of your software, of your analysis. So for instance, let's say I want to develop a new algorithm in the clustering analysis notebook. I will create a new branch called dbscan. Okay, so if I just type git branch, it will just show me all the branches your project has. And so you see dbscan and master with a little star next to master saying you are in the master branch currently. Okay, so before going to the dbscan branch, just a very good practice on Git, you need to change the name master to main, so it's very important. Because of ethical considerations, I invite you to read more our book chapter. But we absolutely need to rename Git branch-m to main. And if we type git branch now, we see that the branch master has been changed by the branch main. So let's go back here. Now we go to the branch dbscan. It's exactly the same than for going back to an older commit. You use the git checkout, but now you use just the name of the branch, dbscan. Git checkout dbscan, and here you can start coding actually. So here, so we are, of course, we have again our clustering analysis. And here, if I want to add a new dbscan, for instance, so here it's not Canadian but dbscan, and up, let's say I perform with epsilon equals 1000, I just save the code, and up here the modification is detected, so I just git add up. Okay. So if I do a git log, I will see that this last commit has been made on the branch dbscan, but not on the main. Okay. So if I just go back to the main branch, it's again git checkout main. If I call git log, I will only see the history of the commits inside this main branch. Okay, so that's why branches are quite very, very useful, because you can actually develop many things just outside the main branch, and if something gets wrong, you can just remove the branch and start something else. So if I go back, if I say, okay, now I know my branch is good, I finished to develop this new feature and I want to merge it with the main branch, because I think it would constitute a new step in the stable version of my project. So I can just go to the main branch. So we are already on the main branch, and I use the command merge that will just merge the dbscan branch with the main one. Okay, so no conflicts appear, and they just explain that there is a merge. And now if I observe git log, I just observe that this new commit here has been taken into account into the main branch. Okay. A last point in this tutorial will be to link your Git project with the GitHub platform. So after you've created your own GitHub profile and that you have configured your SSH protocol, so see our book documentation and link, you can just link a new repository on GitHub with your local Git project. So let's see how to perform this. So you can create a new repository here, no templates, and let's say it will be my analysis 2. Okay. Here we set it up as public because we don't care that anyone on the internet can see this repository. But you may want to put it as private because it may be under development and it may not be published yet. So be careful to select the most appropriate one. Okay. You can even set up a license, etc. So here you have different ways to link this repository with your own Git project locally. If your local project does not exist, you can just create one via this set of commands. But here we already have a Git project, so we will use this second solution. We will just copy this line, and inside our local Git repository we will just paste it. Okay. And so we have well renamed our branch as main before, so you see that it's necessary for GitHub that your master branch has been renamed as main. And we will just copy and paste this. So what it does is that it pushes your main branch to the origin that will be your remote repository. So, okay. So you see that the main branch has been pushed to the main branch of the repo. So here, if I update this page, I will see that all my code has been pushed here. So that's great, with all the last commits. but still I have only one branch, whereas I have 2 branches here. So what I do is I go to the dbScan branch, git push okay, so git push origin dbScan. Okay, so you have well pushed this branch too. If I update here, I see that you now have the 2 branches and that you can go through the branches here. So this is very important to understand the concept of branches, because when you push it to GitHub, if you work collaboratively with other people and they have their own branches, you shouldn't just disturb their own branches, and you are able to see what changes they are doing, or what tasks they are performing, and if it overlaps your own tasks. And so there are many advantages using branches. Be careful to keep the understanding of the hierarchy of your code inside your project. So generally you have a main branch with a stable version of the project, and you want to keep synchronized with that. So to keep synchronized with the main branch, so let's go again to the main branch. So, git checkout main. So people should push their changes regularly and merge the features when they are done and stable with the main branch. But be careful. So here from main, if I want to keep synchronized with GitHub, I will call git pull origin main. And here it says, okay, it has synchronized it, but it says it's actually already up to date. And similarly, if I want to keep synchronized just with the branch dbScan, because git checkout dbScan, I will call here git pull origin dbScan. Perfect, and here it says it's also already up to date, but if you had changed it, it would have synchronized your version locally with the one on GitHub. So thank you for participating to this tutorial. So we've seen how to create a Git repository, how to stage and commit files, how to restore and committed versions, how to integrate new files in your project, how to look at all versions of the project, how to create and using branch, and how to link your local Git repository with GitHub. And now you are ready to get in.